The family of Spock has always been a contentious affair, even before the addition of the adopted sister of Michael Burnham. Sarek, of course, married a human woman, Amanda Grayson, and then remarried a second time to Perrin. He also adopted a human ward for a time and was the Vulcan Earth ambassador as well as a renowned Federation diplomat. This garnered him a mixed reception from his peers, however, as some viewed this as a fascination with humans and as some great exploration or experiment on his part. Other extremist views even saw his familial relations as a threat to the Vulcans' way of life, but most simply could not deny his effectiveness and afforded him and his family the respect they deserved. But even before Spock, Sarek had been in a relationship with an unnamed Vulcan princess. The Apocrypha referred to her by the name of Terea, and she held the position of High Master of Gol, a very prestigious position. However, according to the non-canonical content, she was stripped of that honour because of her leanings towards the Fatosh Couture beliefs. Their union bore a son, Sybok, whose birth was apparently initially hidden from Surak, who eventually moved on from their relationship, unaware of the son he now had. This allowed Sybok's mother to impart her teachings onto him in private, including the legends of Shakari and the notion that he would unify all under one banner someday. Meanwhile, the Fatosh Couture is a catch-all term used to describe any Vulcan who does not prescribe to the teachings of Surak that dictate logic should override all in order to tame the dangerously passionate Vulcan spirit. Specifically, the term is applied to those who either embrace emotion or seek to unify it with their logical approach. When it comes to the Vulcans, such a path can be dangerous, as allowing their emotions to reign too much often leads to violence of the kind that necessitated the need for Surak's teachings in the first place. Sometimes, however, the path is walked carefully and not as dangerous as most logic-abiding Vulcans assume, although the stigma of this pursuit still remains. Eventually, however, Sarek was made aware of Sybok's existence when the man drew attention to himself through some nefarious action, and by this time Spock had been born. Not every Fatosh Couture practitioner is outcast from Vulcan society officially. It's more like the stigma eventually drives them to seek their own path away from their home. They've been present as a movement since at least the 22nd century, and most likely before, as during the 23rd century many had fallen into criminal behaviour, probably in part to their exiled nature. This further increased the stigma associated with being Fatosh Couture. Alongside his beliefs, Sybok had a gifted mind, even for a Vulcan, and a great understanding of their psychic abilities. He not only was apt at the mind meld, but he had developed a number of other methods of probing the mind, some of which were invasive and dangerous. He could also impart a form of brainwashing that he saw as liberating a person from their own emotional pain, where they would then join his cause out of apparent gratitude. But I have to say, it looks like brainwashing to me, as it did to Kirk. On top of this, his embracing of emotions led him to be rather charismatic and persuasive even without his affinity for mind games. Eventually, Sybok begins receiving visions from an entity within the centre of the Milky Way galaxy, beyond the Great Barrier, that is luring him to it with false claims of godhood in order to be freed from its prison. To this end, he began building his galactic army of light to help him achieve this goal, making his way to the failed colony of Nimbus 3 to lure his brother and the Enterprise to him. He eventually perishes in a confrontation with this being after learning its malevolent goals. In canon, this tale was the first we hear of Sybok, from the notoriously tight-lipped Spock, and the two at least part with a better understanding of one another after spending the majority of their lives apart. This is where I'm going into spoilers for Strange New Worlds now. Vulcan operates criminal rehabilitation facilities to manage their own criminal elements, and in 2259, Sybok had ended up in and Keshtan Katil for an unknown crime. Spock was told to avoid contacting Sybok despite his half-brother's status, and he was under the alias of Zavarius, and had been in a relationship with a pirate captain, operating on the fringes of Federation space. This is likely what contributed to his incarceration. Eventually, he clearly breaks out, is rescued by Captain Angel, or fakes his rehabilitation, because by 2287 he is free once more, and continuing with his new goal of reaching a being he believes is God. Sybok continues the trend of the Sarek family being unorthodox. It's just that his actions brought disgrace to the family, and his existence was suppressed so as to spare the family further slander by association. Considering Sarek already had his detractors and his son Spock was already struggling to unify his Vulcan human heritage, introducing the anarchic older half-brother into the mix could possibly lead the younger Spock to eventually walk the same path as Sybok, something Sarek no doubt wanted to avoid. Fortunately, this fate was avoided, although it appears as Spock aged he did manage to embrace and even display emotions more commonly, while never embracing the path of full logical Kolinar or Vatosh Couture ideology. So that is Sybok, and a brief look at the turbulent family of Spock. Thanks for watching this lore drop on another character, and I hope to see you again. I've been Rick. Goodbye.